everyone to the very first episode of the new GPCCI podcast, shedding light on what moves different sectors in our membership and beyond, as well as giving the industries not only a voice, but also let them share their experiences and inform others that might be on the same boat. Being at the forefront of bilateral trade, GPCI wants to offer value to its community by connecting businesses and providing transparent, clear information. COVID-19 created challenges all over the world and is disrupting business operations on a global scale. We start our series with the logistics sector, in particular with the consequences and challenges that come with these trying times and actions that are called for. I'm here with Daniela Wassmann, Managing Director of Rhenus Logistics and Chairwoman of our Vocational Training Committee. Rhenus Philippines is a full-service logistics provider covering the whole country. They offer logistics services including air, ocean, and road freight, project cargo, warehousing, customs brokerage, and port logistics. And I'm also here with Stefan Schmitz, Managing Director of ANTRAK Logistics and also our Board Director. AHK Philippines Transport Solutions specializes in complex transport and logistics solutions in the thermal and renewable energy, mining, as well as infrastructure sector. Welcome to the two of you. Welcome, Daniela. Welcome, Stefan. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tobias, for having us.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Tobias.
Yeah, to start right away, from your perspective and experiences, how is the logistics sector affected by the current limitations?
Of course, the lockdown brings along a lot of challenges also for us. First of all, there are the checkpoints, which, especially at the initial start of the lockdown, made it very, very difficult for our personnel to proceed to the ports, terminals, or to the BOC buildings. And though the DTI announced a free flow of goods, the checkpoints seem to have different instructions, making it difficult and also very time-consuming to pass. Another challenge is the limitation of the certain terminals. For example, currently we face temporarily closure at the MICP, and though the terminals declare unhampered service and the cargo clearance is still shifted to Manila South Terminal, but still services such as processing of goods declaration suffer from backlogs and long queuing. And also, not to mention the unstable networks or technical interruptions, it affects the entire process of documents, and also not to forget the current long cycle times for customs clearance in terms of BOC or CDEC, E2M, but still the Department of Trade and Industry implemented the lodgement of online filing within only 2 days. And here I can already see a lot of shipments that will be abandoned in future.
And that is, of course, a big challenge right now. Stefan, would you have to add something to that? Do you experience something similar?
Yeah, I agree with Daniela, right? And I think the problems are all over, right? I agree also the checkpoints, we had similar experiences, especially at the start where DTI announced the free flow of goods. But the checkpoints were not aware of it, right? The checkpoints were saying only essential goods, meaning only medicine and foodstuffs. So there seemed to be a lack of on the clarity of instructions. The other problems that we're seeing, right, is of course that a lot of our customers are working with reduced workforce or are operating in areas where the barangays are locked down. So even if we release the cargoes, it will take them longer to unload the cargoes, and some goods even may have to be stored. So storage space is also getting lesser and lesser because the products are not being manufactured. There is also what we are experiencing, a reduced air freight capacities due to the travel restrictions. So we're experiencing here a shortage and unfortunately also a rise of cost for our customers. We are experiencing also reduced trucking capacities due to driver shortages. So there's enough trucks to be available, but some of the drivers are in lockdowns or in lockdown areas, so they can't come to work. Personally, I can say that we were able to get special concessions from local government, thanks to the cooperation of all government units, including all contractors and clients involved. What is important is that once these permits are established, that these permits are carried at all times on the respective trucks. Otherwise, there would be a high probability that they would be sent back by the checkpoints that are checking on them.
Mm-hmm. And so you said it is possible with special concessions.
Yeah, but it takes long. It really takes long to establish these, and it has to be coordinated by all parties concerned. And until you reach that, in my experience, may take a couple of days, maybe even a week. For instance, the DTI IDs that are sanctioned by the Interagency Task Force. That took us almost, I think, 8 or 9 days until we had them, right? And then, there was a deadline given to have these passes, right? And then by the deadline, we didn't have these passes. So we were still running around with certificates of employment, right? And that our skeleton force was carrying. But some of the checkpoints were looking for these IDs. So the checkpoints were not aware that there was a delay in issuing the IDs and therefore send people and send trucks back again. So that's what I meant earlier on, right? That sometimes the instruction and even shortcomings that there may be do not reach the checkpoints.
Yeah, thank you. And now that you did that legwork and did this pioneering work, do you see an improvement with the flow after you had to go through all those hurdles at first?
We're certainly seeing an improvement, right? But it's still far from what it used to be.
Yeah, thank you, Daniela. Are you experiencing, or did you experience something similar also with the concessions?
Yes, that's also what I meant initially. It took quite a long time to issue such certificates. We got them around after 6 to 7 days. So considering that Stefan got them only after 9 days, ours is even quite early. But still, up to today, we face challenges because the checkpoints are still not on the same page. Sometimes they let you pass. Sometimes still, even though you have a pass, they don't let you go. And this is also not only Luzon-wide, also in the Visayas and Mindanao, we have the same challenges. But comparable to the first starting point, we see a little bit of improvement, yes. But we still cannot consider it as a free flow of goods that I cannot sign yet.
Mm-hmm. So there are inconsistencies still up to today.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that there were moves by the government to avoid port congestions, and there were obstacles regarding the taxing and a shorter time until the goods are abandoned. Is that true, or can you go a bit deeper into that topic?
Yeah, one of the measures coming from the government in order to avoid the port congestion was the cycle time of the customs clearance. The DTI implemented the lodgement of online filing within 2 days. And this will be, of course, quite challenging because considering that in the past we had 15 days in total. Of course, there are a lot of participants that are involved here. It also concerns the consignees, the actual importers, who have to pay the duties and taxes within a limited timetable. And if the total of 7 days will not be fulfilled, your shipment is considered as abandoned, which will very likely be the case because 7 days is almost impossible to process.
Has that already been taken into place? Did you already experience that? Or are the ports still lenient or not aware of the implementation?
It was just implemented last week as far as I know. And so far, luckily, I can say we haven't such a case where a shipment got abandoned. Not yet.
And Stefan, on your side?
No, not abandoned, right? But together with the effort to avoid port congestion, we have now the problem that the government is trying, or the ports are trying to avoid this by giving a limited time. If you don't withdraw your container within a certain time period, they will move the containers to other storage areas at the cost of the consignee, right? And it's supposed to be within a prescribed time period. However, our experience is they seem to be going by a first come, first serve scenario. So we had containers that were not overstaying, that we were trying to withdraw from the port, and we're told, oh, that container has already been moved somewhere else, right? But I do understand the moves, right, that they need to move containers if consignees are not withdrawing containers quick enough, which is hard enough, as Daniela mentioned already, right? Earlier on, we agreed already, right, that we're far from normal, but yeah, it is the best as it can be under the circumstances.
Okay, so generally you would say it is not business as usual, it is slowed down business, but it is still continuing.
Somebody branded that and said business as unusual, right? So I think that pretty much describes it.
Thank you to the two of you. Would you have to add something still when it comes to the current limitations? Is there still something that you want to add?
Yeah, maybe from the perspective, how are we currently handling the situation? Because I would say, all in all, we all don't have another choice than to adjust, same as Stefan as well. So rather than panicking, we are all adapting a practical approach on the situation. I must also say, luckily, our internal web-based or cloud solutions make it easy for the most of us to work from home. And we, like Rhenus Philippines, has a skeletal workforce right now throughout all of our branches, so that we at least try to have the best service to maintain our 24-hour service to our customers. Our warehouses, brokerage, trucking, freight services, it's all fully running as much as possible. And not only domestically, also our global network is supporting. And though the time is challenging, it also means a lot of chances for the country. Like we just mentioned, filing of entry is now, for example, online. And of course, this process is not flawless at all. It gets very obvious if you look into the missing electronic link between PESA import permit system and the BOC's E2M system, but still it is the right step. And also, as Stefan mentioned, our customers are more and more paying via bank transfer instead of using checks that have to be delivered by messengers. And likewise, also, we as Rhenus Philippines, we pay our vendors via money transfer, not via checks anymore. And suddenly it works. It was something that we were looking into for a couple of years, but now we don't have another choice, and it works. I see as a real chance as well for the future.
So this, you would say, is somewhat of a silver lining that now both sides are forced into looking into digitalized options and finding new solutions to work remotely and to function remotely. From your side, did you implement these remote capabilities and these remote options before the lockdown, or did you react afterwards?
I mean, we all have a business continuity plan in place, and this for sure was part of it. We were already working on it for quite a while, and for some of the customers, most of course were international companies, for some of them it was working, but the number was very, very limited. And bank transfer was also quite costly during that time. But now, since it's for free, it also got implemented for other smaller companies. So it's a little bit of mixture of both. Yes, we implemented it beforehand, but now we fully make use of it.
I agree, actually, right? I think most companies have their business continuity plans or BCPs in place. And we had a chance to test it a little bit in January when Taal, for the Taal eruption. So here in the Philippines, we had a volcano spewing. So some of the BCPs got tested, but frankly speaking, all BCPs that we had in place at ANTRAK were covering more the natural calamities, nothing that would have covered a pandemic. So it's a bit of a plug and play in my experience. We are taking things out of the BCPs, but there were also, of course, scenarios, right, where we had to improvise, right? But I think that's part of the challenge. And as long as you keep a positive attitude and see the glass as half full and not half empty, and don't give up to look for further solutions and better solutions during these trying times, I think then we can move forward, and we will move forward.
Can you give us an example of your improvised measures that you did? I mean, you were forced to change your operations, obviously.
Everything that we worked was mainly based on short period of times, right? Nothing that would have lasted sort of like, I mean, we're looking now at 6 to 8 weeks of working from home. For instance, our remote licenses for working remotely and for dialing into our system was only for a limited number of people. So thankfully, with our regional office in Singapore, we were able to remedy the situation, right, and make the system now wider open. And also the system's limitations or slowdowns, right, were addressed within the first 2 or 3 days of the lockdown, because we had, again, and the fact that China had restrictions first helped us in our contingency plans to prepare. But all in all, I don't think anybody was prepared for checkpoints and total lockdown and an end, right? So I think under the circumstances, we all do what we can. And I agree with what Daniela said. Things may become actually a little bit more efficient. The Philippines was still very manual when it came to customs processing and when it came to all kinds of things, payment by checks, right? Yeah, there is light at the end of the horizon, and maybe some of the manual steps that we had here in the Philippines will become more efficient. So let's see, right? And let's hope for the best.
Yeah, that's true. Also considering we are all sitting in the same boat, the customers and also the providers in that time, we definitely work all hand in hand with our customers. And I must say that we as frontliners even receive a lot of respect and appreciation from our customers. They all know that logistics in the end connects the community. And this is even more essential in times of crisis like this. And because in the end, we are the partners who serve them with food products, with masks or other protective equipment. And even in this exceptional situation and challenges during the lockdown and quarantine period, it's also all of our aim to pay our vendors fast and adequately. And I'm very convinced when I say that we provide fair prices still, and also fair quality and reliability in all times, and our customers know this in this industry.
That would have also actually been my next question. How do your clients react? But you said they're quite forgiving and understand the situation.
I have, in my experience, we're all coming a little bit closer together, right? Suddenly it became clear. Before, the logistics company was always sort of like, sometimes even sort of like the necessary evil, if you want. So, just a service provider, and yet very, very vital. Today, I agree with what Daniela said earlier on, right? You feel a deep appreciation for the services that you render and for everything that works, or maybe even understanding if things sometimes do not work, right? But the fact that we are there, the fact that we are still rendering the services, making delivery possible of all kinds of things, and facilitate what we can under these trying times. And also the understanding by the customers that we do need to get paid. Like I said before, it was impossible to get online payments, right? Really, I would probably go as low as 10% that we would get paid online by customers. Everything else, right, was queue up, bring your official receipt, right, and receive a check. Or maybe sometimes at releasing stations of banks. But by now, our customers accept the e-submission of invoices, they accept the e-statement of account and e-payments, right? So I must say that they do understand how vital we are and that we need to be that we need the blood in our veins, right? Meaning money to pay our vendors, to pay our truckers, to pay our subcontractors, to make this possible, right? So my deep thanks for that, right? It's a whole new world and a whole new feeling.
Mm-hmm. So you would say, again, cash flow is slowed down, but your clients are also adjusting and it is still processing and progressing at this point.
Definitely.
Yeah, of course. But we must also say that another couple of months under such circumstances, it would look completely different.
Yeah, yes, of course. We can't know that at this point, and we all hope for changes in the end. That would have been my last question for today. Would you still want to add something, just as final words to the listeners?
No, not really. I would like to thank GPCCI for interviewing us and giving us the possibility to air our side of the situation at the moment. If there are further questions that anybody has out there, Daniela and I are reachable through you, Tobias, through the chamber, or can look us up on our respective websites.
All right. Then thank you very much, Daniela and Stefan, for your insights and showing other companies from the sector that they are indeed not alone. And always remember that you and our listeners can reach out to GPCI anytime to ask for support when facing challenges. I would thank the two of you again for virtually sitting down with me and would like to end the podcast by wishing everyone all the best to stay safe and well. Goodbye to you. Goodbye to the listeners. Goodbye to Daniela and
Goodbye.
Stefan. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobias. Thank you, Daniela. Bye-bye.
Stefan. Bye-bye.